Welcome back. I'm here with John Kabateck. John is the owner, director, bottle washer, maid, housekeeper, and unlocks the front door at what company, John?
At Kabateck Strategies. There's no job we won't cover,
No
Bob.
job
I promise you that. There's nothing we won't tackle.
I'm really glad to be talking to you today. John is a public policy expert, and again has Kabateck has his own company. And John, welcome to the show. Before we start, give us a brief bio about yourself. Tell us what people should know about you, or maybe what we shouldn't know about you.
Yes, don't speak with my probation officer. That's all I'm saying. Well, Bob, thanks very much for having me. It's great to be on your program, and just a real honor to be able to share a little bit about what's going on. I've been blessed here in Sacramento. I'm originally from Southern California. I'm a kid from Glendale, California, home of the Bob's Big Boy, by the way. And I've been up here about 25 years, being blessed with a number of experiences both inside and outside of the state capitol. A lot of it focused on helping small business owners, helping the job creators out there to have a voice. I served for two governors. I've been in the Capitol, privileged to serve with two governors and in the legislature for a bit. And also a little stint for about 4 years at the California Restaurant Association, helping them with their advocacy efforts. And then most recently, before I went out and became my own small business person, I was the state director of the National Federation of Independent Business, which is the leading organization serving small business owners. I like to joke, I think I just kind of got the entrepreneurial bug myself and decided to make it happen. So been very blessed.
Well, creating jobs, if it's not at the top of everyone's list today, it's in the top one for sure. And everybody's talking about not only how to create jobs, how to maintain jobs, how to return jobs, how do we deal with jobs. So when you look around the state legislature, what are the things that you're interested in, concerned about, involved in that are going to impact jobs and job creation and those kinds of things in the state of California? What's important there that you see?
Well, I think first and foremost, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, middle of the road, far left, far right, our legislators, our elected officials have people in their districts in California who need to work and they need to create jobs. And I think what we're also finding is, even though there's been roller coasters of recessions, there's still plenty of folks out there who are still very uncertain. They really don't know where the next day is going to be for them on Main Street. They don't know where their next paycheck will be. And so I think when I'm looking at the state capitol, when we're looking at things this year, but also in previous years, it's making sure that we can give the small business owner, but also the people who work for them and the people in our communities who rely on small businesses, an opportunity to sleep a little bit better at night. And that, in California, candidly, that still remains a big challenge.
It's huge. I'm a small business owner. I think every small business owner would agree with every other small business owner that we wake up in the morning unemployed, and if we've done a good job, we go to bed at night and we've accomplished something, and we wake up the next day unemployed all over again. And to some degree, so do our employees. So what happens at the legislative level and in California impacts a whole bunch of people in a lot of positive and negative ways, and the people who work for them.
It's very true. I had a guy come up to me and say, you know how to create a small business in California. You just create a big business and stick around a while. And as much as some people may chuckle at that, it's kind of a sad humor to it, because I think there are a lot of folks out there who really are working very hard. I think any job creator, large, medium, small, is an important job creator in our state. But small business owners are affected in a very different way, disproportionate way. Small businesses pay about 3 times more to comply with taxes, about 37% more to comply with regulations than larger businesses. And they're usually the targets of these frivolous lawsuits, these ADA, we call them drive-by lawsuits. So they're an easy target, but yet they comprise about 99.1% of our entire job creators in California. So
what things are happening at the legislature, positively or negatively, that are of concern for you in the coming legislative year?
Yes, well, underneath the state capitol dome, I guess we can say the band has gotten back together again, and there are some new members of the band.
Yes, there are.
After November, and this is the first, real cycle. I think we're seeing that we have a Democratic supermajority. Where there is an easier opportunity to raise taxes or make decisions on a whim, where they don't really always need that checks and balances of the Republicans, which can put some people on edge. But I think at the end of the day, we're hopeful that we see folks on both sides of the aisle who are really committed, hopefully, to job creation. Few issues that are going on this year, Bob. I think you're hearing a lot. We've heard the governor talk about it. We're certainly hearing President Trump and others talk about the I word, infrastructure. And there is a continued interest, I think, if not an urgency, to repair these broken roads out there, our highways, our bridges. The recent rains, those torrential rains, did you get a little water on you?
Oh, yes.
These rains really battered our levees and waterways. I mean, you know that for sure. But they also did a huge number on our roads and highways. But even before the rains, our infrastructure has been failing. And last year, the governor convened a special session on transportation, but it went nowhere. But the legislature's back. They've got a whole series of transportation-related bills. And I think, again, regardless of political side, there's unanimity, I think, in the Capitol that our roads, our highways, our bridges need to be fixed. I think where the rubber meets the road, no pun intended, and the differences exist is how to pay for it. And I think we're finding a lot of that really along party lines. The Democrats, I think we're finding, are believing that there's no real other way to fix the roads than by raising costs on the taxpayers and the users. We've got a couple bills out there that are designed to generate, that are introduced by Senator Jim Bell and Assemblyman Jim Frazier, who are actually happen to be the chairs of the Transportation Committee. But they're designed to generate about $6 billion in transportation funding for road repairs, for mass transit. And they're looking at ways to fund that by things like a 12-cent gas tax increase, a 20-cent diesel excise tax increase, even a $100 fee on zero-emission vehicles, and then they're also looking at like a $38 registration fee hike. So I think that's kind of on the Democrat side. They're kind of looking at that. Republicans, on the other hand, believe the fixes are still very much needed, but can be done without asking taxpayers to shoulder the cost. We've got Assemblyman Vince Fong out of Bakersfield, brand new freshman, who's introduced a bill, Assembly Bill 496, which would again look to provide $7.8 billion in funding. But I think it's looking at existing funds, trying to find other ways to either pay back transportation projects or, frankly, making sure that the dollars that are raised aren't going to the general fund, but are actually directed to those transportation projects.
There's a unique idea, actually,
Well,
have funds go where they're directed.
So it's kind of interesting. You see, no pun intended, you see two roads of the highway. I think you've got some folks who believe that there's a way to do it, that we really do desperately need to raise funds through taxpayers, whether people believe that's right or wrong. And then you've got some on the other side, the Republicans, who believe that we can actually look at what's already in the trove, in the coffers, and just reorganize that so that we're not having to go back to the taxpayers.
What else is on the table that, now I know there's a lot, but what else that you have a concern about is on the table?
Well, I think with the new Trump administration, we have obviously a lot of folks in the state capitol who are on edge. I think especially the progressives, who are greatly on edge as it relates to health care. It's no secret, unless you don't pick up the paper or turn on TV, that there's a real interest in Washington, D.C. and Congress and from the president to revamp and replace Obamacare. But I think here in California, you got a number of folks, again, Democrats in particular, but many others who are concerned about what to do. I think, frankly, there's folks who are looking to try and make a preemptive strike on that by presenting some bills in the state capitol that might preempt anything that Washington might do. One that's got a lot of folks on edge is something that's been tried and true before, Bob, but been rejected many times, and that is what's called single-payer or universal health care. It was just introduced within the past week, but what that would do is basically put our entire healthcare system in the hands and the management of the state government, the very same people who bring you the DMV, due respect. But we also find that I think a lot of folks are concerned when they start hearing about those ideas of government running the entire healthcare system and not putting it where a lot of people feel right now is important, is between the consumer or the patient and their doctor. Governor Schwarzenegger had a single-payer bill in front of him years ago, and he vetoed it, saying that that would both raise costs, result in rationed care, and just more bureaucracy. And not just Governor Schwarzenegger, but the voters of California, you may recall, had a measure in front of them that they flatly rejected. I think there's a reason for that. I think there's a reason no other state really has single payer. It's just something that will, with too much uncertainty. So we'll see what happens, but that's clearly one on healthcare that's got folks a little on edge.
Yeah, and I think that that'll be, if not number one, number two, along with jobs.
And I want to say, and to be fair, I think Republicans, Democrats, all of our elected officials, it is incumbent upon them to identify some meaningful opportunities that will ensure every Californian has access to affordable health care. So it is incumbent upon all parties to come together and have a discussion. But it's kind of like when we heard Nancy Pelosi about Obamacare say we need to wait for this thing to pass to find out what's in it. That's got people unnerved about the single payer bill. So we need something realistic.
In the time we have left, is there anything else that, jumps out at you and says, yeah, we need to talk about this?
I will say on a real more positive, I don't want this to sound too doom and gloom. I think on a real positive, we do see a lot of folks coming from both sides of the aisle. We see industry, even labor and others coming together to try and fix our very outdated, arcane, and duplicative regulatory system. Regulations are strangling, especially small businesses. And what we're finding is we're finding that elected officials some of the bills that have been introduced are actually going to make sure that from both Democrats and Republicans, legislation that will make sure that there is much greater scrutiny to any regulation that is introduced. President Trump said for any new regulation that's introduced, there should be 2 that should be removed.
Yes.
No argument. But I think right now we see here some legislation. Assemblyman Ken Cooley from here in the Sacramento area has introduced Assembly Bill 12. Vince Fong, who I mentioned before from Bakersfield, who's a Republican, has introduced a similar bill that would actually give much greater legislative scrutiny to regulations. I think people deserve that. I think that's where people need to go. And then finally, I would say cannabis. Some people are joking that California's gone to pot, Bob. I think they can pretty much...
On every corner now.
On every corner.
Where you see a dispensary.
So I think right now we're seeing, obviously, with the voters having passed the approval of recreational cannabis and recreational marijuana last year, but also with President Trump noting and new Attorney General Sessions saying that there's going to be greater scrutiny. There's a lot of folks wondering what's going to happen. Right now in California, we've seen about 37 bills introduced having to do with California cannabis regulation, everything ranging from public safety to packaging and labeling, CHP, and public, and making sure that there's authorization to kind of deal how to look at that, to also looking at how to collect and administer the taxes that would be coming. So I think we're going to see a lot of green highways ahead of us having to do with the cannabis laws, and we'll just wait and see what happens there. But that's a lot of questions.
In the few seconds we have left, if people want to get more information from you, want to contact you, want to get a picture of you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you also. I think, first of all, you can go to Kabateck Strategies website, and that is www.cabstrat. It's KABSTRAT.com. Our firm specializes in grassroots, stakeholders, coalition development, media strategies, political strategies, but a lot of it focused on helping our business and job creators be more effective. So do that. We've got a Facebook page, Kabateck Strategies Facebook page. We're on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. But I think most importantly is do that or contact us at 916-956-9027, and we're here to help. And like I said, let's get Main Street hopping again.
John, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. And again, you can listen to this again, get all this information again anytime you want. Contact John, and he can help. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bob.